Just about ready for tip-off. There you see the two meeting of the minds earlier. The Hall of Famer Tara Vanderveer, 3 away from tying the legend Pat Summitt in the all-time women's basketball wins record. Talking with her pupil, Indy LaRock. Has to be such a special afternoon today, Jacob, for both of these women. And Coach Vanderveer, we talked to her last night. She was incredibly grateful for just this opportunity for Coach LaRock allowing her team to come. They're essentially just borrowing the court, staying in Vegas, and there's really no plan as far as how long they're going to be here with all the craziness that we talked about in the Open going on back in Santa Clara.
Gotta love what you gotta do in 2020 to get the game going, don't you, Ben?
Exactly. It's just the reality of where we're at. I know both teams just excited to have this game today, and we're thankful you can join us this afternoon on the Mountain West Network, whether you're watching in Palo Alto or here in Las Vegas. So just about set, Melissa Barlow, McCole Murray, and Tiffany Bird ready to get us underway as Fran Belibi jumps against Kiana Wilfred. Just the second game of the year for Stanford as the Cardinal win the tip. Played on opening day, a 68-point win over Cal Poly, but they have been off since then. 2 different games have been completely canceled, another postponed, as it's Belibi who goes hard to the cup and scores the opening hoop. Coach LaRock told us it was a big transition for her team coming back home as a travel here from Jade Thomas, just trying to make this game simple, right, Jacob? You just don't want to overthink it. So many All-Americans and accolades on the side of Stanford, and she told her team, you just have to believe in your system, and that was her message coming into today.
That's it. You know, you put a system in place for a reason, and if you believe in your system, you believe in your game, you can leave with a win.
Deanna Williams here, the honorable mention All-American a season ago.
Great shimmy.
Inside to Belibi. Hot start for the sophomore from Centennial, Colorado. Coach has told us she has made a huge leap from freshman to sophomore this season.
Back-to-back possessions, clearing great space for herself.
Looking for the entry. Wilford has it poked away. That's Lexi Hull. The bounce up ahead. Haley Jones the finish. Another one of those sophomores. Jones had her freshman season cut short by injury, but she's on the board. And Stanford off and rolling, not looking rusty despite having barely any practice time over the past week and a half. Here it's Nia Johnson. Nice move, but couldn't finish. And the board for Belibi. Hull lines one up and hits. No practice time really to speak of, no problem, Jacob. It's a Cardinal bunch that certainly has come out in rhythm.
Sometimes you come in cold, you come in with a little less practice, you don't have to overthink it, a little less time.
Cardinal came into Las Vegas on Wednesday. We'll talk more about the whole timeline that Stanford has had to endure throughout this past 10-day stretch. Has not fazed them so far, as Anna Wilson called for the hip check on Bailey Thomas.
That's what makes great teams great, though, the ability to adapt.
For some of the afternoon, Lacey Hull, twin sister of Lexi, comes in for Anna Wilson. And that's what Coach Vanderveer told us last night, Jake. It really feels like her team, it's a pack team, as she called it. It's not just 1 or 2 players. They are incredibly deep at every position, and it holds everyone else accountable. That's really been her takeaway from the early part of the season. As Johnson looks to create, Thomas shuffling to burn, has to heave, and that's well short. As Lacey Hull brings it up. Jones on the scoop. Belibi can't finish, but there's Lexi Hull right there. As she dishes to her twin sister, who has started for a couple seasons, but now finds herself coming off the bench. Just a sign of how deep this bunch is. A nice cut, and there is Lacey Hull, the junior, along with her sister, had one of the best high school careers ever out of Spokane, Washington, in that state.
Early on, this size of Stanford is just undeniable.
UNLV, they've been shooting threes at a high clip, and right here, Nia Johnson shows off what the Lady Rebels have been working on. Slow start to the season shooting-wise for Johnson, but coaches have told her to stay confident and keep shooting. As Belibi unable to finish, Wilfred with the nice denial at the rim.
Interested to see if the Rebels can ride that hot hand from Wednesday's game from the three-point line.
12 of 24 from downtown on Wednesday, forced 25 turnovers. Lacey Hull, though, with the takeaway. One-on-one against Byrne, and Hull can't finish. A good defense from the Minnesota transfer, Delaney Byrne. Lady Rebels, though, they understand Cal State Fullerton to Stanford. It's a monumental jump in competition. Byrne here can't get the roll, and Haley Jones, #1 overall recruit a couple years ago, takes it coast to coast and finishes off the window. Jade Thomas on the drive, ends up caroming to her sister Bailey. And here's Nia Johnson. Really struggled shooting in the early going of her first 2 games as a Lady Rebel, but here draws the foul and gets 2 throws. Now you always wonder, Jacob, for transfers, and Nia Johnson transferring from Diablo Valley JUCO in California, started at Cal State Bakersfield, and just 1 of 18 from the field so far. You always wonder, are players pressing? You come in, you're trying to impress a new system, and that's where for Coach LaRock, she's a young coach, but she's been through it as an assistant at Stanford, learning how to get players through little droughts and slumps, and that's what she told us for Nia. Just have to keep shooting, but make smart decisions was really her message.
Yeah, it's important to, coming into a new situation, remember who you are, remember the type of player you are, and don't become the player that you think you should be for this new program. Figure it out, and I'm sure a few games in, Nia will be just fine.
And so far, Johnson with all 5 of the Lady Rebel points. Stanford started off on an 11-0 run as UNLV tries to settle into this game, showing his zone look against Stanford. Hannah jump just in, as is Ashton Prechtel, and the 6'5" sophomore gets the lay-in. Anna Blount also in for UNLV, along with Jasmine Singleton, as Johnson a little off balance, off the mark there, and Lacey Hull brings it ahead. Prechtel feeling it, but comes up short on the fall away. The 2 Colorado natives going at it, but Byrne comes away with the ball.
Way to stick it with it. Find the ball. Not your defender. Find the ball. That's what happened.
And those 2, Byrne and Prechtel, they know each other pretty well from their playing days. Both very high-level recruits coming out of the state of Colorado. As Bailey Thomas will reverse things. Jasmine Singleton looks to penetrate, but it's taken away. And here comes Jones, the 6'1" do-it-all guard, coming off that injury from last season. But Jacob, the coaches tell us she's looked pretty healthy to them so far, and off to a nice start here today.
Oh, she has complete control of the court every time the ball's in her hand. You can watch, she's analyzing everything, reading the defense. It's been a great start for Jones.
Foul called on Ashton Prechtel as we've reached our first media timeout. Stanford off and running as they lead UNLV 17-5 from the Thomas & Mack Center. We'll be back with more right after this as you're watching college basketball here on the Mountain West Network.
With the athletics department at Stanford to find these games and get everybody ready for them.
And that's where the connection comes in handy. Lindy LaRock, she was a big part of that, allowing Stanford to make the trip here. As we're back underway, Desi Young checking in for the first time for UNLV. As Thomas penetrates, going through the strong front court of Stanford, but can't finish. Anna Blount able to corral it. Almost hits the 3 from way outside, and Cameron Brink, the freshman who's just checked in, gets the board for Stanford. First look at Kiana Williams, well short on a 3, and that hit the baseline. So the senior from San Antonio comes up well short on her first shot attempt.
That's a great take by Thomas in that previous possession. Just tough defense, tough, large interior. Very, very, very good take.
UNLV, they've been using Bailey Thomas as a point guard, even though that's not her true position. But with Singleton on the floor, that's how they can run the offense. And here it leads to free throws as Desi Young draws the foul inside. And you get a look at Desi. So you have players on each side, Jacob, wearing the goggles today. And Fran Balibi comes back in. So here's Desi. She feels more comfortable, though, with the goggles. Doesn't like the way the contacts feel, and she's come out really impressive. The coaches have been impressed with her as a pleasant surprise, and she has delivered 2 really solid games to start her collegiate career.
There are some staples to the game of basketball, and goggles are one of them, and they should never leave this game.
Well, we're glad to have that representation on both sides. Balibi, who wears them for Stanford, she's back in as well. As the freshman Young goes 1 of 2. Hannah Jump, the sharpshooter, can't hit that 3, but a push on the inside as Alyssa Jerome, who's also just checked in, had the better position. So Williams works against last season's Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year in Bailey Thomas. Big assignment for Thomas this afternoon. Here with the shot clock running down, Jerome from the outside leaves it short. Singleton with the rebound, and she was bumped from behind by Lacey Hull. And that gets the UNLV bench fired up, just looking to string together some good defensive possessions. That's probably been the one struggle early on this season, Jacob. You're trying to instill that new system, and outside of the first half in their loss against Northern Arizona on opening day, they've done a pretty good job keeping opponents at bay.
I tell you what, a lot of defense comes down to conditioning and cardio. So I wonder if they maybe up the conditioning in practice, stringing together some great defensive possessions there. Thomas looks great ball denial on Johnson. It was, you have to wonder, did we up conditioning? Did we maybe think that's somewhere we need to improve this season to be better on defense?
As Singleton goes 1 of 2, Lady Rebels now in the bonus, and that is something that Coach LaRock said was a huge emphasis of her staff's overhaul of this program, wanting to get her players all into better shape entering this season. Here it's Jerome going right at Blount and draws the foul. Alyssa Jerome, one of 3 seniors on this roster. And those are 3 players who actually have experience playing against UNLV back when they were freshmen. But this type of matchup pretty rare. Stanford has not made a trip to play UNLV in Las Vegas since '91, obviously with the Pac-12 tournament being held, especially in these past couple of seasons in Las Vegas. They've had the experience playing here. As Jerome hits both. And we'll now check out Haley Jones back in.
Looks like that makeshift hoop that Jerome was shooting on during the shutdown was working out for her.
Yeah, well, coaches have been saying that's just the unknown of which players would come back looking even better, given that there was really no oversight over this offseason. And Jerome from Toronto was able to do that in her home setup as Thomas has it stripped. Young blocked in the middle by Jones. And here comes Kiana Williams. Has it poked away nicely, though, by the freshman in Singleton. What's been your impression so far, especially for these freshmen of UNLV? I mean, you think about just how deep, how good Stanford is in really every facet of the game. Has to be tough, no matter what your coaches tell you about that mental approach.
I feel like it's always a matter of just be scrappy, be a problem, and be annoying whenever going against an opponent like Stanford.
Jasmine Singleton has seen some early minutes. Off the inbounds, though, it was a wide open Jones, and she can't finish. Maybe surprised at how open that bucket was. She has a wry smile coming down the other end. Early 11-0 run for Stanford, but the 2 teams have been even since. Young stumbling but draws contact, and she gets 2 free throws.
UNLV has done a great job of slowing the pace down, getting to the line. That's what you have to do against an opponent like the Cardinal. That's what you have to do.
As Byrne comes back in for Wilford. And it's funny, you mentioned that Coach LaRock told us She watched Stanford practice this week when they were here, and she was like, yeah, look, I know everything Stanford does. I know Stanford like the back of my hand, with how much of her basketball career has been centered around Palo Alto and the Cardinal. So there are really no secrets here. If anything, it's for Coach Vanderveer trying to scout a extremely young UNLV team. That might be the tough part, but
it's always interesting to see what a assistant takes from their head coach when they become a head coach, what they emulate and what they change.
It was a close loss in the opener, but UNLV did win Wednesday at Cal State Fullerton, so they're 1-1. Here Jones on the back down, and a solid first quarter continues. 8 points, 4 of 5 from the field for Haley Jones. Burns stepping out. That one's off the mark. Lady Rebel team that launched 24 three-pointers, hit 12 of them in that win Wednesday. In the meantime, Jana Van Geitenbeek, a freshman, also in for Stanford as the Cardinal turn it over.
UNLV's shot 4 three-pointers now this game. I'm happy to see that they're getting them up. It's always important. It's kind of like a run game. You want to make them respect the three, know your shoot it. Even if they're not dropping early on, it will come around. Stanford also with 4 threes as well.
You see some of the early production out of Haley Jones as Singleton brings it ahead. Final minute of this first quarter. Hot start for Stanford, but UNLV, they've tried to settle in, and they've done a good job getting to the line, like right there, as Singleton will get 2. The freshman from Goodyear, Arizona, and her dad, James, a big part of her basketball journey. He was the co-founder of her AAU club she played at, and a former college player himself at St. Bonaventure. And it's Singleton at the line here. That's, I guess, what you always look for as a coach, that fearlessness against the top team like Stanford. And for Lindy LaRock, I'm sure taking in a lot of things, seeing how her team will react to a game like today. Singleton hits both.
Singleton has done a great job of just being a pest for Stanford.
And it's paid off there at the line, and now here she gets the steal, yeah, right on cue. A takeaway for the Lady Rebels, and now they can get the last possession. Bailey Thomas, quiet in this first quarter, has only attempted 1 shot off a career-high 26 on Wednesday. Here she comes up short, fight for the board. Young picks it up, but the horn sounds, and we go to the end of the first quarter. Great start for Stanford. UNLV, though, has hung in there since. It's an 11-point margin as we've played one from the Thomas and Mack Center. Back with more after this on the Mountain West Network. Back inside the Thomas and Mack Center, a look at what is at stake this season for Tara Vanderveer. It's been just an incredible career for the Hall of Famer. And this will be the season she passes Pat Summitt as the all-time women's wins leader. Not too far behind Coach K at Duke as well. I think the stat, Jacob, that stands out to me, more wins than all but 7 entire Division I programs in the country. Just shows you the length and the amount of consistent success she has had. It's just an incredible ride for Coach Vanderveer.
That is dominance. That is dominance. Incredible.
Underway with the second quarter as Jade Thomas can't get the roll. She and sister Bailey combined for 42 on Wednesday. They've been quiet so far, though, against a really tough Stanford D. Fran Belibi bodying up inside, and the nice move comes for the sophomore Belibi.
Belibi does a great job using her elbows. It's all 3 of her baskets down low with office space from working those elbows.
Bit of an out-of-control drive here for Johnson. That's hard off the window, and Belibi gets the board. And Belibi, probably the best overall athlete, the coaches say, on the team. 31-inch vertical, 6'5" wingspan, so it helps on those post moves. Here she sets up on the low block. Instead, Wilson hits the 3 with a foul. And 1 for the redshirt senior, Anna Wilson.
An 1 3, that's like a king size on Halloween, Ben.
We'll get another look here as Johnson a little bit late on the closeout. And it's Wilson at the line. You talk about being grateful to just have the chance to play. Wilson, when the season was cut short last season, thought that was probably it for her career, but she was able to apply for a medical hardship waiver. She missed most of her freshman season with injuries, only played in 6 games, and was granted that extra season of eligibility. So it's been a big bonus for Anna this year. As Williams takes it away, 3-on-1 for Stanford, and Jones can't get the finish. Belibi crashing hard. That won't go, but it's Lexi Hull for the reset. And Belibi able to finish it off. Nice little scoop from her teammate Anna Wilson.
Great vision there by Wilson, just to find Belibi in the crowded paint.
Young, not afraid of the number 5 on the Stanford side, those 2 goggled players going at it. And Desi Young, the Las Vegas native from Desert Oasis High School, heads to the line as Prechtel returns for Stanford. And here's another look at that drive from Desi Young. The coach has told us, Jacob, she really understands what she's good at, doesn't try to go outside of her limits. And it sounds obvious, right? But you don't always see that in freshmen, especially those who come in, try to
That's what makes
their game.
Great teammate. That makes a great teammate, knowing your role.
So Young gets both, all of her points coming at the line so far. And she gets a nice hand from the coaches as she exits, allows UNLV to set up some pressure. Nia Johnson's 5 leading UNLV so far. Jones and Belibi each with 8 and add 2 for Lacey Hull off the bench. She's on the Pac-12 all-freshman team a couple of years ago. Didn't play much in the opener, only 8 minutes and didn't score, but she's been a big factor today. Johnson, she's had the hot hand early for the Lady Rebels, and that continues. Second 3 of the day for Nia Johnson, who was just 1 of 8 from downtown in the first 2 games of the season. Hull again on the nice cut. Gets the point from Haley Jones. And Stanford, they've really been able to create anything on that offensive end so far.
A lot of movement in their sets, a lot of movements. Love to see it.
So much youth on the UNLV side, but they'll find Johnson. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Nia Johnson has her 3rd triple of the half, 11 of UNLV's 17 points coming from the junior out of Sacramento.
Ride that hot hand.
Only team in the country, UNLV, with more than 90% of their roster having just a single season or less of Division I experience.
You know, that's exciting, though. The youth is exciting.
It is. There's also the reality of playing a team like Stanford, who are kind of the exact opposite. They return almost 85% of their scoring from last season. As Anna Wilson gets the answer, left alone in the corner. Already everyone on the roster for Stanford has gotten in, as the Cardinal lead comfortably by 18. Just the 2nd game of the season for Stanford, and it's a double dribble here on Kiana Wilfred. And this empty atmosphere, it's interesting, Jacob. You can hear pretty much everything. Lindy LaRock barking out instructions for her players, trying not to get so stagnant so far from the hoop, as Jones unable to hit here, and Johnson with the board looking to push. Wilfred spots up, and that's rejected by Prechtel, able to shovel it away to Wilson. And Jones with the finish. A timeout for UNLV as Stanford gets Haley Jones into double digits with 10 points. 6:03 to go in the half as you see it one more time. Stanford up by 20. We'll be back with more right after this on the Mountain West Network. 20-point lead for Stanford as you get a look at some of the highlights so far, Jacob.
Beautiful bounce pass in transition. Stanford's transition.
And they can do it inside and out. That's what makes the Cardinals so dangerous. It's a reason why they're about to be ranked #1 in the country. And I know it's been an impressive showing. You've liked what you've seen as far as their movement so far, just their general court awareness as well.
They have not allowed their offense to get stale in a single set. The ball has been touch, go, touch, go. It's been great basketball for Stanford.
So what can UNLV do as they try to chip away at the deficit? Bailey Thomas has it denied. Prechtel and Jones, tough to get past on the interior. And it's Haley Jones with the scoop up and in. 12 points in 12 minutes for the former #1 overall high school recruit. Off an injury-shortened season. It was really the first time she had been injured in her career last year, but she's come back strong. Had a cool 16 and 11 in the Cardinals' first game. Jacinta Buckley just in for the Lady Rebels, and she hits that in the paint. And UNLV back into his zone. Van Geitenbeek, the freshman. Able to find Hall, wide open three. Prechtel though right there for the board, and that's an easy putback. Now, UNLV trying some different things defensively, but they're on the zone. Able to hold up for maybe half the shot clock. That's what you're meaning though, Jacob, with that movement, and why it's so difficult is Thomas can't hit there.
Yeah, this Cardinal team, they know each other so well. They know their spots, and you can tell they knew that's where Hall was going to be. They're working that whole possession once the zone happened to get to that open shooter on the wing.
Prechtel shuffled that pivot foot, and it's a travel. It's the third turnover of the day for Stanford. You just think about where these two programs are at. UNLV, 9th in the Mountain West 11-team preseason poll. Stanford picked to win the league. And certainly one of the top contenders this season to win it all. Have not won, despite all of Coach Vanderveer's success, haven't won since '92. As Desi Young looks to penetrate. A little up and under. Tough finish trying to go at the 6'5 Prechtel and can't hit. Van Geitenbeek on the drive and kick. Here's Lexi Hall, a little push from behind. And she goes to the line. She had the hot hand in the opener for Stanford, 19 points, 7 of 10 from the field. And so far, Jacob, we have seen all 11 on the roster check in for Stanford. And you really, we've talked about Kiana Williams as the All-American from last year, but you really don't get the sense, as Coach Vanderveer told us last night, that there's really one that they have to rely on. So many can fit into all those different parts.
And when you're on a trip like this, playing in a, a stranger in a strange land, we'll say, it's always great to be able to rely on your whole roster, because who knows what, like having a game canceled 2 days from now, having, you have to be able to rely on everybody. So it's great to be able to get something from everybody on your roster.
That's where that experience comes into play for Stanford this season as bodies hit the deck, in particular Desi Young going down, but she draws an off-ball foul.
I like what I've seen from Young. She's been very active on the offensive side of the ball. She is not afraid of the size of Stanford.
Double-digit points in each of her first 2 games. And they said 8 of her 10 field goals coming into today. Wilford looking to post up. She goes up and under, but that one can't fall, and it's Jones the board. Another 3 for Hull. That one off the mark, and that's maybe been the one inconsistency today for Stanford. They have struggled at times from the outside, 3 of 8. Outside of Vanna Wilson, it's been a struggle for the Cardinal. But still up comfortably, 43-19. As the Lady Rebels put 3 freshmen, 2 sophomores on the floor. And Singleton has it swatted by a talented freshman of the Stanford side, Cameron Brink. Brink at 6'4", puts it on the deck and travels. They're trying to go coast to coast as you get a look at Cameron Brink. Not all that often you see a freshman come in and get put on a top positional watch list, but that's what Cameron is on, the McLean Award list for the top power forward in the country. Here it's Buckley in and out on the three. And Brink goes to work on the block. Now she can get that shot whenever she wants, but it comes up short here. Fight for the ball in the corner, and a foul is called. It's on Jade Thomas, the UNLV freshman, as you saw Lexi Hall there in the corner go down.
Brink is coming out aggressive. You love to see that from a freshman. You know, you have some good aggressive games early, and that can change your whole season.
They had a cool 17-6 in her collegiate debut. Again, that was last Wednesday in a big win over Cal Poly. Here, though, Jade Thomas takes it away. UNLV, as you've alluded to, Jacob, they've been active defensively.
Yeah, their guards have had quick hands, active hands.
Jade Thomas well short on that three. Easy board for Lexi Hall.
That was the third possession in a row for the Lady Rebels. You've just seen that Stanford length. Just, you can make a great move, but you can't beat height.
Turnover here, though, for the Cardinal. And yeah, you look at it, UNLV, they've really put an emphasis on increased pace, getting good movement, and yet only 19 points to show so far. They were only about a 60-point-a-game team a season ago, but up to 78 through the two. But, of course, with that understanding, today's game, it's going to be one of those probably asterisk games stat-wise where you know going in it is a big mess match. And outside of Nia Johnson, just not a lot of openings for UNLV. Johnson with 11 of the team's 19 so far, but here it's a foul off the ball. And Young's hard work continues to pay off. That goes on Lexi Hull. And we'll see one of the talented freshmen for Stanford return, Agnes Eminopu. And she right on cue, blocks Buckley off the inbounds. So two freshmen on the floor for Stanford, part of a top recruiting class. They've had 6 straight seasons with a top 10 recruiting class, ranked number 6 coming in. And it really does feel, Jacob, anybody who's followed Stanford basketball, it is always an extremely high expectation, but this year in this current group they have, it does feel like one of those units that is in a special class of its own.
Oh, absolutely, and you can just tell how much these girls trust each other. These ladies have so much trust in one another.
Haley Jones, it's been easy for her in this first half, but here Kiana Williams called for the foul in the backcourt. Second straight quarter, UNLV has, I was about to say gotten over the limit, but they had taken one foul off the board, just the 4th on Stanford. You get another look there at Haley Jones. It's felt pretty easy for her today. 14 points, 6 boards, and 5 assists all in this first half.
You know, and Jones said before that Cal Poly game, she said she had some jitters. This is Jones's quote, "Putting on the uniform gave you those jitters just like freshman year coming off that injury."
And it had been a long time missing basically the final half of her freshman season. Then you get the shutdown, of course, and the delayed wait for this year. But she's looked good today as Buckley flashes off a screen.
Jones attributed a hot start early to getting her confidence back in that game, and here she's again, another hot start.
And does not lack for confidence, does Haley Jones, who gets the rebound here off the miss from Anna Blount. Actually, Buckley there on the miss as Emma Nopu penetrates, and she travels down low. So we'll see Nia Johnson check back in for the Lady Rebels. And coming off a game Wednesday in which it was all about the Thomas sisters, 42 combined points. Johnson had struggled in that game and in the opener. It's been Nia who's really lifted UNLV, but here it is Bailey Thomas off that career high 26-point outing who gets on the score sheet with that layup. Jones showing off her skill, but can't finish at the rim. Byrne did a good job of the denial along with Anna Blount. And shot clock and game clock just about even in this first half. Jump, gets the takeaway, 3-on-1. That is Brink, and that will suck in off the front of the rim. Cameron Brink with the bucket. As we wind down in this first half, as expected, controlled by Stanford. And the Lady Rebels cannot get a shot off as we go to halftime. 47-21 our halftime score as Stanford jumped out to an 11-0 start and has not looked back. Again, alongside Jacob Roach, I'm Ben Wilson. We will step aside, come back in a few minutes as we take a look at some stats and first half highlights. So far, though, it's been all Cardinal, the second-ranked Stanford group, leading 47-21 here on the Mountain West Network. Just about set for our third quarter inside the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas. I want to thank everyone tuning in today on the Mountain West Network. Thanks as well to our production team, Devin Keenum, Mike Stewart, Brian Williams, and the whole Rev Vision crew making our broadcast today possible. As we are underway in this second half, back alongside Jacob Roach. I'm Ben Wilson, as Stanford in just its second game of the season has looked very solid, clicking on all cylinders today. And Kiana Williams kicks things off in this second half. She was pretty quiet, despite being probably the player we highlighted the most coming in today, Jacob, but it just shows you how deep the Stanford roster is, and she has her first three. And that hits off the hand of Jade Thomas last.
Interesting to see Stanford go with a 3 out of the gate after really punching that ball down low in the first half.
They led 11-0 right out of the chute. They've gotten pretty even production from just about everyone on the roster. Here it's Delaney Byrne with a little check from behind on Haley Jones. You think about Haley Jones, though, and the type of expectations when you're a top overall recruit in the country. The last time Stanford signed the consensus #1 high school recruit, it was Shanae Agwumake. So I mean, you're looking at that kind of name, Jacob, in that same sphere. But she's handled the pressure really well so far after her injury as a freshman. Here it's an and one, though, for Lexi Hull. So a 3 and now an and one. A good start to this third quarter for Stanford.
And right there, that speaks to Jones's leadership. She's the first person to congratulate Hall off that and one. You can tell these women really do trust each other.
So it's Hull, who was the first freshman to ever have a double-double in her collegiate debut a couple years ago. She gets the free throw. And UNLV has to hurry getting it in. Taken away by Williams. She can't finish. Byrne with the board. Mental error from UNLV. Nobody came back for the ball, but it all works out. As Johnson looks for Wilford on the entry. And that's poked away. Last touch by Stanford. Aside from just this experience that all the Lady Rebel players are getting today, Jacob, you'd think for Nia Johnson, this will do wonders for her confidence. Really struggled shooting. She has the ball right now in her first 2 games, but has found the touch today, 11 points and 3 of 3 from downtown. This time, though, slips out of her hand, and a takeaway for Balibi goes all the way and lays it in. Balibi, the second Cardinal into double figures with 10 points on the day. Johnson has that one blocked. The 6-foot Hull using her length. And on the other end gets the feed from Williams and puts it down.
12 fast break points for Stanford, 1 for UNLV.
And a comfortable 10-0 start to this quarter for the Cardinal. As Johnson lines one up, but that's too strong. Beliebe the rebound for Stanford, who will play tomorrow here at the Thomas & Mack Center. It will be a quote-unquote home game. As Jones, no resistance on her drive to the tin, and that's now 16 today for Jones. Lindy LaRocque not liking how things have played out to start this half. She takes time as it's a 12-0 Cardinal run out of the gates. 28-point lead for Stanford, as we'll step aside. Be back with more right after this here on the Mountain West Network. A look at the Stanford huddle and junior Lexi Hull. She and her twin Lacey. We've, of course, mentioned the Thomas sisters for UNLV. Well, the Hull sisters for Stanford, what a run it has been for them. Part of just an incredible high school program at Central Valley in Spokane, where they were the #1 team high school-wise in the country, went to the Geico Nationals and won. Here they get a takeaway on the inbounds with Hull, Prechtel, and Wilson all in the mix. And so those two have been a big addition for Tara Vanderveer. Both juniors now, as that's knocked out of bounds, staying with Stanford. But they are identical twins. They did the old Halloween prank, Jacob, as freshmen. It took Tara Vanderveer. They switched jerseys at practice as Anna Wilson comes up short on a three, but Beliebe is right there for the finish. So they switched jerseys. So what is your over-under? How long do you think it took Coach Vanderveer to figure that one out?
I think they probably made it most of practice.
45 minutes is what she said, yeah. Almost a solid half of practice.
Yeah.
And after that, Coach Vanderveer was like, all right, I got it figured out. We're not having any of that anymore. So it was a one-time deal.
Curious to what the tell was.
I asked her about that last night, and she was like, well, once you figure it out, you just know. So I guess that was it. It's a foul called underneath on Beliebe. And it inbounds here for UNLV. Quick catch and shoot. Jade Thomas able to hit her first points of the day. Off to a great start in her career, certainly for everyone on the UNLV side. An expected struggle this afternoon, but Jade Thomas has poured in 27 points through 2 games. Out of the powerhouse Centennial High School in Las Vegas. 4 straight state championships in her prep career. So we mentioned Lexi, twin Lacey also on the floor, and here's an off-the-ball foul. This will go on Jade Thomas. And when the Hulls, though, they were going through their offers, and they basically made it known they were a package deal. They did not want to split up, and so they both commit to Stanford. They both had their time in and out of the starting lineup, both being big contributors. Here Lacey passes to Lexi. That doesn't go. Prechtel deflects it toward the corner, and Lexi Hull unable to save.
The nice part about being a twin in basketball, you always got a one-on-one game.
Well, it's funny you should say that. The coaches are like, we don't even let them guard each other in practice because it's too competitive.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, after practice, during the shutdown, of course, that certainly works out. Here, Bailey Thomas helps run the point as Desi Young goes to work on the block. Prechtel swats it away, though. Byrne, little drop step, draws contact, and gets 2 free throws.
It's a great job by Byrne to create something out of that short shot clock.
Byrne, as you see another look at this drive. It's a tough assignment trying to finish between the 6'1" Beliebe and the 6'5" Prechtel. But Byrne does get to the line. She had a fantastic opener, double-double with 18 and 10, where she scored more points in that season opener in the loss to Northern Arizona than she scored in her entire freshman season at Minnesota. Gets it back after missing both throws and cans the three. First points for Delaney Byrne today as UNLV tries to ratchet up the pressure. Alyssa Jerome has other ideas, knocking that one down from the outside. All but 3 on the Stanford roster have scored today. Byrne had that partially blocked by Prechtel. Chance as well for Stanford to give some of the younger players more run. Desi Young thought she had the clean steal going on the freshman Prechtel, but is called for the hold. Prechtel, the catch and shoot. That's a smooth stroke for the 6'5" sophomore. Repping Colorado Springs, one of 3 5-star recruits from the state of Colorado on the Stanford roster. And the lead now up to 40. Desi Young stepping out, calmly hits. First bucket from the floor for Young, has really lived at the line today and throughout the first couple games of her collegiate career.
She has been active this second half on defense.
Singleton called for the foul. It's one of those things too, as we go to break, coach is always looking for that aggressiveness, and that freshman combo so far, Jasmine Singleton and Desi Young, they have brought it for UNLV, even in a losing effort today. As Stanford opening up a big lead, we go to break. Cardinal with a 67-29 advantage on the Lady Rebels. We'll take a break, be back with more after this on the Mountain West now. 67-29, the Stanford lead on UNLV. So we welcome you back inside the Thomas and Mack Center. This again will be the temporary home, at least for tomorrow, for Stanford. They will host Washington, 2 o'clock tip inside this building. They've got a couple practices in since coming to Vegas on Wednesday. Have the Cardinal and have been clicking on all cylinders today as Lacey Hull can't hit on her first free throw. Back alongside Jacob Roach. I'm Ben Wilson. You think about this now, Jacob, from the UNLV perspective. Obviously, you've had the struggles here as both free throws are missed, but a reset for Stanford. And what do you focus on now? I mean, you're down 40, but still valuable playing time for a lot of the youngsters. What do you look to accomplish now if you're Lindy LaRock?
This is all get your ladies some experience, run some sets that you're not too comfortable with yet, get those hard reps in a position like this.
And there you go on the fast break chance. Thomas left alone in the corner, and Bailey hits the 3, now gets a steal.
Great aggression coming out of the gates. I love that. I love a press.
Bailey Thomas, she's done a lot of that in her career. 2-time Mountain West All-Defensive Team member and last season's Player of the Year on the defensive side. Gets 5 quick points. Hannah jump, short on the spot up in the corner, and last touch by Stanford. Another look at that sequence, Jacob. As it is Singleton who brings it up. Of course, you always wonder, a player like Thomas, who the coaches have really challenged to improve offensively here, as Tiana Carter in for the first time, too strong on a 3. So you challenge Thomas, become more of an offensive player, and what does she do? Hits all 6 of her 3-point attempts, all 8 from the field, 26 points, a career high on Wednesday. Obviously going to be tough to follow that up today, but that was kind of a glimpse into what these coaches expect from Bailey as that senior leader. Here she is with the ball now.
Great quick fast 5 points there. I think challenge accepted so far, I would say, for Thomas, coming off what I've seen offensively.
Here it's Desi Young That didn't go off the hop, but picks up her dribble. Kicks out to Carter. Too strong on the three, but follows it up. There is Young, count it and one. Still playing with purpose, despite being down big. The freshman Desi Young continues to impress.
Coach LaRock, she has to love this fight that the Rebels are showing down the line here. This is great.
And the N1 good for Desi Young. We talked about Jade Thomas, who was at Centennial High, won 4 straight state titles. They played against Desi Young and Desert Oasis in last season's title game in Reno. And Young now up to 8 points on the day. As Jones spots up, that's well short though. On the three, caught a piece of the baseline as well as it came down. A rare miss today for Haley Jones. 16 points, 6 boards, and 6 assists for the sophomore.
Talk about controlling the game.
Bailey Thomas, such a tough ask against a stout interior defense of Stanford. Leads to an outlet to Jana Van Geitenbeek. Floater off from Hannah Jump. We get a tie ball. And the arrow goes to UNLV as Brink and Buckley hit the deck. So our first extended look at Tiana Carter, who was a redshirt a season ago from Tucson, trying to work her way into the rotation for Coach LaRock. Here it's Bailey Thomas, and that's a foul on the freshman Emma Nopu, with 2 even in this third quarter. And you talk about how that style Stanford plays, we mentioned it in the first half, Jacob, it holds everybody accountable because they know everyone is capable of playing pretty big minutes. And you'd probably say the same thing about UNLV in a game like this, where players that can show they belong on the floor against a team like Stanford, we're going to be the #1 team in the country come Monday. That probably goes at least a good amount of way when you're
yes.
analyzing and evaluating on Coach LaRock's end.
A game like this is a good place to gain and lose minutes when you're playing the best team.
Breaking the press, it's Hull for 3. Carter able to snap down the board on the UNLV side. Lady Rebels still playing hard despite being down 29. And a near and one for Young. And Young a little slow to get up as she took a hard fall. But she has earned all the bruises and bumps today. Really been strong going to the bucket, and they'll give her a couple extra seconds to massage that right leg.
She plays a lot bigger than she is at 5'8". You would think she's 5'10", 5'11" the way she plays. I'm sorry, not 5'8".
6'1".
6'1",
Yeah, you're close.
Sorry, wrong step. But she plays bigger is my point. Because anyone who's on her on Stanford has her by height, but her energy makes her bigger.
Jones goes right at Young and draws the foul with 1. Bucket going for Haley Jones. And after tying a career high with 11 boards in the opener, you see Jones continue to produce on the offensive side today. With that free throw nearing a career high for Jones. Scored 21 on a couple occasions last year.
It's great body control on that and one.
Young, a bad pass here. We'll have to certainly watch Young. She's been laboring just ever so slightly after taking that hard fall a moment ago. But hanging in there for now. As Jones looks for another drive. Cannot find Balibi though, as it's knocked out of bounds by Buckley. You'd think to a game like this for Stanford, Jacob, it's a back-to-back, so you usually only see these in the holiday tournaments or once you get to the postseason. So minute management, that'll be big, you would think, for Coach Vanderveer down the stretch. Stop and pop right out of the inbounds for Van Geitenbeek, but that one's too strong and jump can't corral. I haven't noticed it a ton today, Jacob, but Coach Vanderveer, she has been using the bullhorn on the sidelines, which I think is just, it's a brilliant usage with the mask limiting communication. Here, a nice finish from Jacinta Buckley.
You know, I'm surprised you don't see that more, honestly.
I was thinking the same thing, yeah. The bullhorn, she uses it with a microphone in practice. You're not allowed to do that in the actual games, but goes with the bullhorn over the mask. It's been pretty effective.
Yeah.
And an off-ball foul called on Desi Young. So now both teams over the limit. 5th foul for each team in this quarter. And it is Fran Belibi. First woman since Candace Parker to win the Powerade Jam Fest dunk title as a high schooler. But the rise of Belibi, just as an overall player, Jacob, she was known as that highlight reel player who could just dunk the ball. That's what she did in high school, coming out of Regis Jesuit. But coaches say they've really been impressed with how she has grown her game as a whole. And we've seen her presence down low on a number of occasions today.
I love the way that she's worked the post today. I love the footwork, the use of the whole body in the post.
And here she leads the fast break. Van Geitenbeek, right back to Jones.
Great outlet.
That ties a career high for Haley Jones as the lead goes back over 30 in the final 10 seconds of this third quarter. Jasmine Singleton looking for Byrne. Byrne will not get a shot off before the horn sounds as we go to the end of the third quarter. Stanford extends its lead, now 31 at the end of 3. We'll come back, be back with our fourth quarter right after this. It's College Hoops here on the Mountain West Network. The start of the fourth quarter inside the Thomas & Mack Center. A look at Fran Belibi, the sophomore from Centennial, Colorado. Solid afternoon, 13.6 boards. And you think about the growth of Fran, as we were talking about, Jacob, before the break, and somebody who really wants to do more things than just basketball in her career. Her dream is to become a doctor. Her parents both in the healthcare industry. You think about how big of an impact that is, especially right now. But Stanford was her dream school just from the academic standpoint, wanting to get in, and that wasn't an issue. 35 on the ACT, and a player who didn't start playing basketball until she was a high school freshman, but has just exploded onto the scene and a big part of Tara Vanderveer's rotation.
Grew up as a tennis player.
Yeah.
And you can see with that footwork, she knows how to move those feet.
We start the fourth quarter with a Lexi Hull triple. Third Cardinal into double figures as Jones takes it away. Too easy for Haley Jones, a new career high. An afternoon to remember for the Santa Cruz native. As Nia Johnson checks back in for UNLV. And Jones, she can do it all. Guards the outside, can move down to the interior. Here it's Johnson. Goes hard on the deck, but leaves it a little strong. Cameron Brink the rebound.
Jones really,
Jones who brings it up.
She sees the complete court, both sides of the ball. It's incredible, her awareness.
Well, that whole concept of point forward, that's becoming more popular now in the NBA. And Jones, she started referring to herself that way when she was in high school. You don't see it as much in the women's game, but she's really determined. She wants that to be how she's known. Haley Jones was the first ever female recruit to have one of those live ESPN signing ceremonies. So it was a big deal that Stanford was able to keep her at home. She's been probably the best player on the floor today. Here, her little scoop pass inside, though, into some traffic is broken up. Jacinta Buckley had a foot on the baseline, a turnover. Mentioned the 3 in double figures for Stanford. UNLV with Nia Johnson leading the way, 11 points for the Lady Rebels. This is their final tune-up before Mountain West play begins next weekend. They'll get set to host Wyoming in a Saturday-Monday series. Cameron Brink here too strong. It's Jones the board. Little floater off the glass and in. The entry here comes to Byrne. That's blocked. I think Jones got a piece from behind as well as Brink. It's Anna Wilson to lead the point. Here is Brink, goes right at Desi Young, unable to hit there. And it's Johnson with the board. Little foul in the backcourt committed by Lexi Hull. So mention those series that we'll see starting next week, Jacob, and with all the scheduling chaos, Wyoming, they have not even played a game yet. The Cowgirls supposed to have their season opener today, host Gonzaga on Tuesday in the midweek. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out this year with essentially the back-to-back setup that most conferences have now adopted, where it's a game Saturday, off Sunday, play again Monday, as Blounce with the nice finish inside.
And a team like UNLV, you know, Wyoming hasn't played well. UNLV, they just played Stanford today. They're ready for anyone else, and you know, that's a great advantage for this team. They're ready. They've seen the best. They know what they need to do. They know where their holes are, so they have more time to adjust.
Nice little teardrop by Kiana Williams. You're right, that will be some valuable tape coming out of today's game for Coach Lindy LaRock, second youngest head coach in all of college basketball, the 30-year-old. Here it's Anna Blounce getting some extended minutes. Had a nice finish a moment ago. Here able to draw contact as she stumbles inside. And it's Prechtel who is called for the bump.
UNLV's ability to get to the line is what has impressed me the most from them today. It's hard to get to the line against great teams. It's not easy.
Especially the movement you talked about. That's not something that applies just on the offensive end. It's extending to the defense as well. And it's been a big reason why UNLV has struggled to get consistent shots up. Just 13 of 42 from the field today. And Blount hits the free throw. Got lost in the shuffle a little bit on Wednesday. Mentioned just the incredible shooting performance from both Jade and Bailey Thomas, but quietly, Anna Blount put up a career high, 12 points, and did most of it at the line, 6 of 8 from the stripe. Here hits a pair of free throws. Hannah Jump left open, cans the three. Hit 8 threes in a single game last season against Syracuse, one of just 5 in team history to do that, and shows off her stroke. Kiana Williams now with the takeaway. Coast to coast. Williams has not had to do a whole lot today, just with the divvying up of production up and down the Stanford lineup, but the honorable mention All-American from a year ago, now with 7. Desi Young short on the spot up, but it caroms out to Johnson, who can't bank one in. As Williams brings it up. Open three, Alyssa Jerome, it's not there. And Johnson a little out of control, but draws a bump from behind. I believe that was Anna Wilson, and it's free throws for Nia Johnson. We've, of course, mentioned today, Jacob, the sister connections on both teams. And you wonder, too, about the adjustment for Nia Johnson. She's basically played almost her entire basketball career with her sister, Nadia. They played together in high school at Cal State Bakersfield. They both transferred to the same JUCO last year. So this is the first year outside of Nia's senior year of high school where she has not played with sister Nadia, who's a year older.
That's got to be a tough adjustment, really, to have your sister there all the time. But, you know, I feel like there is a connection between this UNLV team. I'm sure they have her back.
She's really burst out of a season-opening slump, went just 1 of 18 from the floor in the first 2 games, but the coach just told us, look, that's not really who Nia is. She's much better than that, and she's proven it today. Although she can't hit on the free throws. Chance for Singleton, though, off the steal to push, and she gets the finish. So after Johnson goes 1 of 2 to get to 12 points, it's the freshman Singleton who gets her first bucket from the field. Seeing a little of that zone look today from UNLV. Most of the time, though, Stanford has had the answer, and they do with Balibi on the interior.
Making that extra pass in the post.
Tiana Carter not there for 3. Jump will try 1 again. That's off the mark. They'll be facing, Stanford will be, that is, a hot Washington team coming off of a beatdown at Cal on Friday night in Berkeley. So they're awaiting the test results from Washington before that game is made official. As Balibi fumbles it a little bit, able to scoop to Anna Wilson. And that goes in for 2. So in a series, Jacob, where Stanford's really owned the Huskies, that will be an interesting matchup tomorrow. Back-to-back for Stanford. Washington has looked great so far in the early going. A really young team of their own on the Husky side.
You know, that goes back to what we talked about earlier in the game, though, with the Stanford's ability to use their whole roster. Everybody can have fresher legs because everybody can be relied upon in a game like today.
Here it is Blount who draws the foul, which takes us to a timeout, our final of the afternoon. Stanford coasting 91-49 lead over UNLV. We'll take our final break of the day, be back with the final 4:04 after this here on the Mountain West Network. Look at the Lady Rebel huddle as we welcome you back inside the Thomas and Mack Center. Back alongside Jacob Roach, I'm Ben Wilson. Obviously a tough day at the office for the Lady Rebels today. A scoreline of 91-49 probably won't surprise a whole lot of people with how dominant the Cardinal have been in the past and are presently. But what are some of your takeaways today, Jacob, for UNLV? It certainly hasn't been all bad. There have been some good flashes on the Lady Rebel side.
They've been able to keep their foul count low and get to the free throw line, which shows they're not a sloppy team. Sloppy teams make those mistakes, and the Rebels have not made those mistakes today. They've made it to the line, they've been aggressive coming in the lane, and their foul count, 20 fouls by Stanford, 12 by UNLV.
I know you've used the word scrappy a few times. I think just kind of your natural reaction to what you've seen on the interior from the Lady Rebels. As we come out of the timeout with 2 made free throws for Anna Blount into our final 4 minutes. Hannah jump. She's not shy about shooting the threes. Misses here, but Cameron Brink gets the board and draws the foul.
With a 40-point lead, if you're the Rebels, it's easy to get complacent, but they've been aggressive every possession, and that's a great, great positive from this team.
Just the first team foul there as Blount picks up the foul. Bailey Thomas back in. Both teams still, with these two coaches, a lot to work on in these final minutes. Chance for the freshman Emma Nopu to get some run. That layup a little too strong, though, for the Aussie. And it's Byrne the rebound up ahead to Singleton. Blount trying to match up against Brink. It's the length of the 6'4" freshman, though, that makes that tough, and she gets the board.
Use that shorter, great, good separation against that length, though.
Here, Brink calling for the ball. Another one of those top recruits. She was the #3 overall prospect in the country when she came out. Her 3, though, in and out for the Beaverton, Oregon native. And one of 6 McDonald's All-Americans on the squad. Bailey Thomas, that shot blocked, and there's Brink again. Between she and Prechtel, Jacob, that length, it's been impossible to ignore today.
Yeah, it's all about patience with your shot, finding the best shot to avoid that block. It's hard to say that when that length is so great for Stanford, but a position like that, you think one more pass, somebody's got to be mismatched.
And it leads to the easy bucket for Cameron Brink on the other end. As we approach the final 2 minutes. Blount pushes one up a little bit strong, but Singleton there for the follow. Byrne can't hit on the inside. So for the Lady Rebels, the one positive of this game today, as the three won't go for jump, and a reset for Stanford. One positive, they were supposed to be playing at Utah Valley. But that game was canceled due to a positive COVID test in the UVU program. Another bucket here for Cameron Brink. So you avoid the big trip back home. Instead, they can get back to work. Full week now of preparation for the Lady Rebels before Mountain West play is set to begin against Wyoming. Foul called here on Van Geitenbeek, climbing over the back of Bailey Thomas. So a chance for Bailey Thomas at the line in her 78th career game. She basically makes up, Jacob, all of the experience for UNLV. Anna Blount started one game last year. Only other player in this system for the Lady Rebels to start a game in their career.
You know, it does put a lot of pressure on Bailey. It does, but from the on-court presence she has on both sides of the ball, you love to see, like, there's a lot for the Lady Rebels to take away from her as a leader.
As we get a quick 30-second timeout, final minute 28 of this one. I thought it spoke volumes what Coach LaRocque told us yesterday, Jacob, where Bailey Thomas, in that win at Cal State Fullerton Wednesday, had the game of her life. 26 points, like we mentioned earlier, 8 of 8 from the field, 6 of 6 from the outside, but she came off the court pretty upset. Her teammates felt like they let up down the stretch. UNLV had a big lead, still won comfortably by 14, but she said as a coach, she didn't even have to say anything. Bailey took matters into her own hands. She's like a second coach out there, and she, at least Lindy LaRocque, from her perspective, that was more impressive than the 26 points for a player that, by the way, is about a 3.5 point a game scorer in her career. So that's the type of player you get with Bailey Thomas.
And sometimes as a player, having your leader talk to you off the court first instead of your coach, that gets through to you.
There's not been any quit in the Lady Rebels today, despite the big score difference. Still fighting hard, and they get a 10-second violation.
They're a young team, Ben, but they have not been afraid of Stanford. They have not been. That is a great takeaway.
Chances for players like Jasmine Singleton running the point right now, the freshman. We've seen a lot of good things from Desi Young today. Kiana Wilfred, Jade Thomas, a couple other freshmen with valuable minutes. And Coach LaRocque calling that timeout, still drawing up plays, looking to get, like you said, Jacob, some of those positive sets. And here Delaney Byrne draws the foul.
It's a situation like this, you put a set out, you see something, and it's like, well, next game, we're gonna use that set 4 times. Something I saw against this defense has unlocked this. I love that they have not given up.
So it's Delaney Byrne to the line. And she hits the first. While we have a moment, should give a shout out to the SID for the UNLV women's team. Mark Wasick not in the building today because his wife, Rachel, just gave birth to their 5th child a couple of days ago. So congrats to the Wasicks. I know he's watching from start to finish. Most people might have turned off the game by now, but you know, Mark's still there, so have to give him his props. Certainly for any coach, any administrator, any sports information director, this has been one of those years that will cause you to lose some sleep, and then you throw in the new child into the mix. So
is a year
fun times for all, yeah.
A lot of case studies will come from 2020. Yep. A lot of case studies.
Yeah, remind me to save that graphic we had earlier on the Stanford cancellations, because that's one of those in 10 years from now will just be remarkable to look at. I think Delaney Byrne had a little cut on her lower leg, so they'll get a bandage and stop the bleeding.
Following a cancellation schedule is like taking yarn and push pins on a conspiracy
Yeah.
board this year. It is impossible to follow. It's a labyrinth.
And we asked Coach Vanderveer about just that. We asked, all right, what's next? And they really don't know. There's no plan. That's just how the season is going as Brink's able to finish inside. They'll play tomorrow, and that's about what they know against Washington, 2 o'clock here inside the Thomas & Mack Center. Even with that coaching relationship, though, it still is a great gesture by Coach Lindy LaRock. That's what Tara Vanderveer told us. She was so appreciative of Lindy for letting her team relocate. As Byrne misses on the 3. Final possession of this one as Brink will finish it off in style for Stanford. Ends up with 10 points, 4 blocks on the day for Cameron Brink, who is basically at Stanford because of Steph Curry, who's very close in the Brink family. It'll end up being another bucket, steal and score for Hannah Jump, and that's how things will end today. The local product from San Jose, Hannah Jump getting the bucket. And as Bailey Thomas dribbling it out, Byrne tries one more time, and that does it. Stanford leads wire to wire, and the future #1 team in the country, they'll get to that spot on Monday when the new polls come out. After South Carolina lost on Thursday, they roll in this one 101-54. We will step aside, come back with our final numbers and player of the game in a moment here on the Mountain West Network.